Hello, everybody. It's Bill. It's that college football guy here. Another video. Promises one here. Now, stuff happened in the Mountain West with UTEP and everything else. I'm going to get into that one. Maybe make another video later today because of all the stuff that's happening. I don't know if the time of UTEP's formally accepted, but I'm going to go there because apparently there may be more than one. I'll get into that. But this one is about a statement I made on X on Twitter. Y'all need to follow me on there. I'll put the link for that in the description of this video. But I said the fact when the story comes out that the Big Ten and the SEC want a 4 guaranteed spots in the college football playoff. This was phase 1 of the beginning of the big plan. I've talked about this before. This is phase 1. The end game is going to be, I don't know what year for sure. 2030s most likely. Basically this. They have been working behind the scenes. Everybody said like the fact and I know a lot of people saying we have a P2 and everybody else. We have 3 tiers in college football and at the Division 1 at FBS level. You have Tier 1, which is the Big Ten and the SEC. We have Tier 2, which is the ACC and the Big 12. And we have Tier 3, which is now the G6. Pac-12 fans saying they're part of the power. No, you're not. There's such a thing as the half and the 2/3 rule. At least half of your members to get a shot at being a power conference, autonomous conference. 2/3 to have it guaranteed. You don't have enough autonomous schools. Sorry, you're a G6. But this isn't about them. This is about the thing on there. Why did they ask for 4 each? This is phase 1. Push to see how much you can get. How much will they let you have? How much before the NCAA finally says, you know what, no, you don't get any more? Because they're going to push and push and push and push to try to get as much as they want. Or they can get. Not want, can get. They're going to keep doing that because they're filling the dominant program. Well, we're dominant conference too. How many of you were in the top 10 outside of the Big Ten and the SEC? How many? They dominate. Now, the crazy idea comes, they're going to go up and they're going to secede and they're going to leave and form the Super League or down there. And then every single time this has been brought up is the fact that it's somebody outside of the Big Ten and the SEC bringing it up because they're hoping that, 1, it happens. 2, they cut schools so that way their favorite has a spot. That's what this is. Every single time a Super League goes up with everybody I've heard to that's in the Big Ten and the SEC, they laugh about it. Like, why? We don't need it. If the Big 12, the ACC, and the G schools all want to make a Super League, then have at it. We're not going to be a part of it. And there's a possibility they may try to do that. Although with the egos involved, I highly doubt it. But what does this mean? I've said that the whole plan is, I made a video on this. Done several. Apparently I've got to remind people. I said the end goal is they're not leaving the NCAA. Get that thought out your head. Big Ten, the SEC, or a Super League, not a Super League. Not happening. There will not be a league outside the NCAA. They're not going to do that. What they are going to do is follow Charlie Baker's advice. NCAA President Charlie Baker said that we have people, universities, and member institutions that feel that they don't have enough control over their own destiny. Perhaps it's the time for us to create a new subdivision for them so that way some of their desires and requests can be met. That's what this is about. But their NCAA is hesitant on doing it. So the Big Ten and the SEC are going to push them to get there. Look, you have right now in Division 1, you have FCS, the Football Championship Subdivision. You have FBS, the Football Bowl Subdivision. 2030s, I believe wholeheartedly, they're going to create FAS, the Football Autonomous Subdivision. Big Ten SEC, in this new subdivision, they get their own rules. They can expand how much. There's a cap of, what, 25 million, 22 million on NIL. They can make it 60. They could raise the cap to whatever they want to do. They could raise or lower scholarships as they want to. The one thing they want to do is to speed up NCAA investigations, have an outside firm handle it. No longer be able to get this done because the longer it takes, the worse it looks for everybody. Drop the hammer. Don't ask questions. No stalling. So that's one of the focal points in this. Oh, they're going to leave the NCAA? No, they are not. Get your brains out of that thought process. Because there's a one-word answer that tells you why they won't. A one-word answer. You know what that word is? Congress. Yes, the United States Congress. Because, again, I have to remind this. I've said this before, but I've got to say this again. With the House settlement and all the other, now it seems like 100 lawsuits. It's not that many. I don't know the exact number, but it's a bunch. We know that. House is just the most publicized. All the money the institutions have to pay out, including schools that do not participate in NIL, are going to have to pay on this settlement. Schools like Harvard School of Business, Yale, Princeton, NYU. The list goes on and on of universities with very powerful, very rich alumni. Some of them are members of Congress. That are universities are telling them, why are we having to pay the bill for something we never did because of something they did? They're screwing it up for us and costing us millions. Why should we have to pay for this? We need protection. Now, this got a whole bunch of movement, and then all of a sudden, it stopped. Oh, they're not going to do it. No, it's an election year. They're not stupid. It's an election year. Watch about March, and miraculously, this is going to come back up again. It'll first be introduced that they're talking about it. And then it'll be tabled until after the NCAA tournament. And then all of a sudden, it's going to miraculously pick up speed in May. So that way, all things get done, and miraculously, just before the start of the year, I think they're going to announce either this coming year, I think they're going to announce congressional protection and antitrust exemption for the NCAA. So that way, those smaller schools don't have to pay the price for the bigger school's stupidity. Now, that means the fact that in order to do the NCAA's protection, one, they have to meet all the requirements, and they're working on their way to doing that. They're going to have to do certain things they don't want to do. But it's either you start making people employees. The problem is, I think Congress will back off that. Because if you're employees, Title IX no longer applies. You become a for-profit business, and all those programs go away. So I think Congress's demand of employee status won't happen. Independent contractors, that's a different story. And that may be allow you to get circumvented and allow you to have Title IX. But I fully see them getting that, which means one thing. They're not going to leave the NCAA because, think about this. There have been talks about the NCAA getting an antitrust exemption off and on for 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. I know for 30 at least, I've known of. I remember this from the 90s, they were talking about this. Because of potential problems down the road. Oh, you're overreacting. No, someone was thinking ahead of the curve. That's what it was. They've been talking about this. And it's been, Congress has been hemming and hawing and dragging their feet. And, oh, we'll do this later and everything, and crying and whining and complaining and everything else under the sun and not do it. So with all the fighting that it's taken to get this far, and there's been a lot, you really think they're going to do this twice? No chance. They're going to do it once and once only, and if you're not part of the NCAA, that's your problem. So knowing that's happening, knowing that they get congressional protection where they never get sued again over the NIL, you really think they're going to leave the NCAA? Nobody is. Because they're going to want that protection, which solves, that's hundreds of millions, billions of dollars saved because of one little thing done by Congress. It's not little. But one thing done by Congress can solve all this. A new subdivision. That is the end game, folks. I fully believe that. They get to write their own rules. Now, the say is, well, how are you going to get in? First off, let's get to this part. How are you going to get in? Well, they're going to have to go through this, and it's going to be NFL Light because this guy and this website. Will you please shut up and listen? It's not going to be NFL Light. It's not going to be 32 schools. It's not going to be the elite of the elite. Sorry, not happening. Not enough money to do it. And furthermore, the lawsuits off of kicking somebody out could cost more than the house settlement. And they know that. They're not dumb. As I've said before, having a tomato can at the bottom of your conference makes your top schools look better. Everybody has a value. You just don't like the value. That's the problem. You want an NFL Light. You, the fans, want the NFL Light. They don't. Doesn't matter what you want. You're not calling the shots. They are. So here's the deal. Give you an example. I think it was called the UFC. Was it the United Football Conference? I think it was. The UFC. Nice initials. I'm not sure if that's correct on the initials for that. When the Atlantic Sun and the WAC, remember that? Back in the day, they were to merge and their football-only operations and then ascend the entire conference from FCS to FBS. Now, it fell apart because they weren't going to get much money in media deals. They got a preliminary evaluation from media people, and it wasn't enough money to justify the cost, so everybody went their own separate ways. But they got tentative approval from the NCAA to do it, provided all member institutions and the conference, or it was just a conference, I don't remember which one it was, pays all appropriate fees. If they would have paid the bills, that new conference would be an FBS. That simple. They'd be an FBS. So you can ascend from one subdivision to the other by paying all appropriate fees. They create a new subdivision. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they granted, since it's a brand new subdivision, they granted a one-time only amnesty for conferences to go in, provided they meet all qualifications. Because they could change the qualifications. You have to have X number of amount in an NIL account or endowment or whatever the hell. They could make qualifications and fees. But it's not Ohio State's going, Michigan's going, but Minnesota and Wisconsin are not. No, no, no. Alabama and Georgia going, but Vanderbilt, Mississippi State are not. No, 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 no. That showed the fact with what happened with that merger with the WAC and the Atlantic Sun. Even though it failed because of financial reasons. The entire conference can move up. Which means the Big Ten as a whole moves from FBS to FAS. The SEC as a whole moves from FBS to FAS. And if all qualifications or fees are met, the Big 12 could move up as a whole from FBS to FAS. Let me say, I don't want the Big 12 up there. You need tomato cans to beat up. You're not going to be able to have the G5 to beat up because they won't be in the same subdivision as you anymore. Beating a G5 school was bad. Now they'd be the equivalent of beating up an FCS school. Now, what would an FCS school be? 2 notches down. Let's be beating up Division 2. It has no value and can hurt you. So those FCS matchups are going to go away for a lot of the FAS schools. I think a lot of them will, because they won't, because they're 2 subdivisions down. It's like playing Division 2 schools. It doesn't look good. So that's a potential of something that may happen because of this. But it gives you the fact that, like the Big Ten and the SEC, and we get tired of beating each other up, we need to beat either somebody else up, but they need to have on the same level so it doesn't hurt strength of schedule. Because strength of schedule is not going to matter in football, but it sure as hell will in basketball. Strength of schedule matters to make it to the NCAA tournament, doesn't it? And if the Big 12, well, that's another story, though, isn't it? And football matters on there because the fact is, truth be told, what I told you was wrong. I was seeing if anybody catches it and see if somebody does in the comments if they catch it. Oh, I was going to say something. Even if you pause the video, you probably make the comment before I say it. Part of the deal of this is I still think the Big 12 will probably eventually go up because they're going to want tomato cans to beat up. Why beat up on all the SEC schools or your Big 10 school when you can go beat up on Houston and Cincinnati and have the same value on your schedule? chance to make the playoff. Something to consider. But the main value why I say that this FAS is going to work, you have your ability to write your own ticket, to write your own rules. So it satisfies that problem. You can take care of NCAA investigations and how that's working. You can satisfy that problem. You can take care of NIL and revenue sharing. It takes care of that problem. And because you're still within Division I, you still get to make the NCAA men's basketball tournament, men's and women's basketball tournament, and compete for all NCAA championships, and you'll get the antitrust exemption. It checks all the boxes. Now, when is this going to happen? I still fully believe mid-2030s. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 2030, 31, 32. I don't know if it's going to move that fast. It all depends how the other phases move up. Say the fact is going to be is, number one, asking for more invites. Second, a larger share. They've already asked for one share of the purse. They're going to go through both years of this playoff as it exists. They're going to ask for a bigger share after that. I think they're going to ask for an increase after that. Because the Final Four, we have more. We deserve more percentage of the money. We're already shown a track record. Look, we get this. That's going to be the going. And they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until the NCAA says no. It says, we need more control. The subdivision idea, we like it. It's time to implement it. They dial it back and wait. NCAA creates the new subdivision. Timing goes down when the college football playoff contract ends, most likely. The new subdivision's created. Everybody moves up. ACC, you could still get there, provided you're still an autonomous conference, because that 20, 30, 37 bit, you may be up there, you may not be. The question is, and here's one of the consideration, what if there's like a minimal NIL requirement that you have to have X amount of dollars minimal spent every year, and you have to have a record doing it, or you have to provide a bond or something to secure that amount? Or they may ask everybody to put out a bond, which if you can't meet your NIL requirements, you can borrow against the bond, but once the bond hits zero, you're demoted. And you have to come back with double the amount and let them vote you back in. Or you have to earn your way back in or something. I don't know. But that's... What if a school's in the Big 12? The SEC and the Big 10 schools, they're all having to have money. That ain't going to be an issue for them. But what about if there's a Big 12 or an ACC school that can't afford to go? And the conference is going up, but they can't afford to go. They won't be going. Normally, you leave a conference, you'd have to pay an exit fee. Under this situation, the conference is elevating up, but you financially can't go. So you'd be allowed a one-time amnesty to leave the conference. Now, that means now you're in a lower subdivision. Is it a possibility the ACC could be left behind? Yes. Is there a possibility the Big 12 could be left behind? Yes. Is there a possibility that the Big 10 and the SEC will be left behind? Absolutely not. This is their baby. The timetable on how fast this goes depends on how fast they can push the NCAA. Because Charlie Baker put the idea up and he's cooled on it. They're going to push him to make it happen. That's what this is about. Pushing the NCAA to create the new subdivisions, so that way they can write their own rules, everything else, get the antitrust exemption, and everything else. That's what this is for. This is the start of their end game. They're still going to be within Division I. They're not leaving the NCAA. They just want to create a new subdivision. That's where this is going. Do I like it? Not particularly. But I'm not a person making the decisions here. So I can only go by what there is. And what I see is this is what it's going to be. And I figure in the 2030s, by the end of the playoff contract, it's going to happen. Figured once they start making these pushes for these incremental increases that impacts everybody else to a lesser degree and demands more and more, eventually there's going to be the pushback. We've had enough. Big 12 and the ACC said we had enough. G5 conferences say we've had enough. Too much. Enough. When that happens, we feel we're worth more. We've proven we're worth more. You feel we don't have that on here? And President Charlie Baker, perhaps your idea of a new subdivision is a good way to go. Create it. The Big 10 and the SEC will move into it. And you guys can have this. Big 12, You want to come up, you meet all the requirements we create, you can come up. ACC, you could come up. But you have to meet all requirements. And I'm figuring it's probably going to take 2 years to get all the requirements and stuff done they want to have implemented. And to get that in place. So that way, minute one, July 1st of whatever year, 2031, 2035, 2032, we'll see. But once that happens, that's when it kicks into gear. That's when I think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to wait past this next contract. Because if they're moving now, that's where this is going. The birth of FAS. It may not be that name, but for me, it makes too much sense. CBA. It may not be called the Football Autonomous Subdivision. They may create something else. But for me, you put all the autonomous schools, the autonomous subdivision, including Notre Dame, because they can still go up. Would they make a requirement that everybody has to be in a conference? No. Because if losing Notre Dame up there and losing the TV dollars, no. They'll figure out a way to make it work. Because pissing Notre Dame off is not good. They're not that good now in football. Yeah, I get it. But historically, they have value. So just deal with it. But that's what I think that happened. This is the beginning of the birth of FAS. That's what I think this is going to be. This is phase one. It may go by a different name. But the new subdivision, I believe this is the way it's going to go. This is what we're going towards. And we basically have 7 years until that happens. 2 years of them pushing. Maybe 3. A year of the NCAA, him and Hahn finally saying yes. 2 years of finalizing out all the details. And then the implementation. That's where this is going to. And it will coincide with the end of the college football playoff contract. They know what they're doing. This is a long-term plan for future stability and more control. That's where this is going. But I've said my piece. Why don't you let me know what your thoughts are about all of this down in the comments. So again, thanks everybody for watching the video. If you haven't done already, please do me the favor. Smash the like button. Hit the thumbs up. Helps with the algorithm. Helps YouTube to know, hey, people like this video. We need to put it in rotation more. More people seeing it. So thumbs up really helps. Comment on the video. Let me know what you think about this. Because of Congress granting the antitrust exemption, I fully believe they're going to do that. That stops anybody from leaving the NCAA. Because if you disband the NCAA, what criteria? You think Congress is going to want to deal with something new? No, they want to deal with something that's established. That's why disbanding the NCAA is stupid. It ain't going to happen either. Reorganized? Absolutely. But disbanded and new cup? No. That's something that's got tradition, it's got value that they know about, that they know their history of. Yeah, there's a bad history, but they're making the right moves forward. So that's what I see on that aspect. But you can let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Share the video if you want to. If you haven't done it already, check out some of the other videos I've done. If you like them, hey, subscribe to the channel. You know, working slowly on that crawl up to 1,000 to make some things happen. So again, thanks everybody for watching. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to follow me on Twitter, on X, it gets a little crazy around there. The link will be in the description. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. Man, week's flying already. Be careful out there. This weather is crazy. And please, be good to each other.